The Last Faith, with no hesitation, directly copies the amazing metroidvania Blasphemous. Its main formula in basic mechanics, intense fast-paced gameplay, art style, level design approach, almost all support systems, and even such small details as animations of finishing moves and cutscene staging. However, devs drew inspiration not only from this successful project. There are stylistic references and a setting vibe similar to the Bloodborne, while general arsenal and weapon movesets reminds of Death's Gambit. And in some details you can even find echoes of the very origins, the classic Castlevania Symphony of the Night. All the design concepts of this project are taken from other games. Nevertheless, let's not make any conclusions. Instead, we will look at The Last Faith with an open mind and try to answer the question: can a project entirely consisting of borrowed elements become an excellent game in its own way? And if you're ready, we will start our pilgrimage to find the secrets of The Last Faith game design. I guess I've already used this line before. So the core gameplay in all the mechanics and systems are synergized here quite well. It is less platforming and more combat-oriented compared to other Metroidvanias. The level design is primarily supports the unique combat situations, and the wide variety of enemies makes the gameplay exciting through the entire run. However, there are some elements to improve. For example, the balance of the weapon arsenal. It is much easier to take fights with a large sweeping weapon. Many enemies simply will not be able to reach you, especially flying ones. In addition, enemy movesets got a bit strange timings. The interval between enemy attacks is so huge, so combat comes down to a single successful dodge with a proper position setup, and it follows by a 3-4 hits combo, during which enemy stands idle. Exceptions is might be only few humanoid mini-bosses, but still. Considering that when you have to fight a few enemy types on the screen, it is balanced. But when it comes to one-on-one, it becomes very simple. Actually, this feature might be justified by the wide variety of enemies, their exquisite movesets and offensive abilities. However, bosses don't work so well in this combat concept. They are mostly simple and oftentimes repetitive, but these encounters are still fun. By modern standards, compared to other similar projects, they just don't look so impressive. In any case, players always like to face more spectacular bosses. It just never hurts. Besides, the endgame boss encounters are great and worth to play through. So just few more memorable mid-game bosses would be great. Also, the overall difficulty curve of the project is not quite conventional. From mid to late game, player becomes so overpowered that the all challenge is gone. Sometimes it is nice to give the player the feeling of overwhelming might, but you should precisely dose one, as after a while it just becomes boring. Usually by the end of the game the difficulty reaches its peak and the final boss is the climax. But here it is not the case. The player's skill improvement, his damage and stats let him just tank all incoming damage and smash the enemies. But overall the gameplay is still fun and there are a lot of systems to master. Oh, and I almost forgot. Actually, here is a new and let's call it distinctive feature of the combat system. The shape-shifting that transforms player to some kind of werewolf, with no healing option but drastically increased offensive capabilities and mobility. Or we might saw this in some NES project 30 years ago. Anyway, besides basic mechanics, there are a lot of support systems surrounding core gameplay that add variety and depth to it. Yes, even though we have already seen all this in other games, here all these elements are harmonized with each other and perfectly enhance the gameplay. So I would like to note one essential fact. I talk all the time about borrowed elements, but it is only some design concepts. We should be aware that the most difficult task for a game designer is to bring all these ideas to life and set up every element to properly interact and synergize with each other. All the elements that we're talking about today were technically developed from scratch. And I want to stress this even more, that it took no less efforts on implementation in comparison to other projects. That's the path the devs took intentionally. It is actually a big risk, leading in most cases to faceless mediocre project release. But The Last Faith in this approach is outstanding. Now let's briefly talk about the setting and narrative design. This grim world is executed in the best traditions of the dark fantasy. It is so deep and rich in its atmospheric details that player immediately dives into it. Narration is simply captivating. I haven't seen anything like this in terms of script quality for a long time. Here the plot and lore are made at the level of AAA projects. And I want to admire how all the lines of dialogues are written. It is just top tier level. Bravo! The musical accompaniment is magnificent, but the sound effects are quite disappointing. It seems like as if they were taken from a pre-made assets. They do their job, but just don't reach the overall level of project quality. Visual style, in its pixelated drawing execution techniques, similar to the Blasphemous, but with its own essence that it doesn't seem like plagiarism. Level design is also at the highest level. All locations have their own concept and visuals with diverse design and feeling, and even the small details like interactable environment and animations of background objects are the great examples of peculiar attention to details. This shows the great taste of the dev team. As of performance, there shouldn't be any issues on almost any wooden PC considering the game content, although there are some freezes in weapon set animations when you switch into new ones. Also true for magic abilities. Maybe this referred to the renderer script setup, not sure. Anyway, as a result, even though The Last Fate takes a lot from other projects, the game itself turned out to be an excellent and exceptional metroidvania. So does it mean that ideas copy-pasting is not always leads to insipidity? What do you think about this? Here, I wanna thank you very much for watching, and if you like this video, you know what to do. I'll see you soon. Bye.